Welcome to Financial Planning Explained. I'm your host, Mike Menninger, certified financial planner, founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. I have been seeking a travel agent forever. And I finally got someone who's willing to come on to my show. It's amazing. And so I have to be, in the 2.5 years since I've been doing a show, I have to tell you, you're the first guest I've ever had on my show that I've met that day.
Hey.
All right, there's a first for everything. So the irony of it is we got delayed. We should have had the camera on us in the back because we had a great conversation. So when I ask all the questions, we're going to almost, in some regards, repeat. But it was really, really cool stuff. Anca, thank you very much for joining me today.
Well,
I think this is great. This is Anca Trofin. You are a travel agent?
Yes.
And self-employed?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about, I'm sitting here, I asked you what you do and everything else like that. So as a travel agent, I found that you do something that's unique, and that is your, what do you call it, a travel host? Or trip?
So I would call myself a travel host.
A travel host.
Yes. So what I do is I create trips, vacations for my clients or for potential clients. I put together what I think is the ideal itinerary and an ideal destination, and work on my good connections for people to join me. So,
right. So you are on the trip as well?
Yes, I joined the trip, and I'm considered your brain on vacation. So
how big are your trips? How many people?
So I actually call what I do is what I consider small. My groups are 12 people large.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it's
and
nice.
It a group of 12 people call you up and say, Anca, we have a group of 12 people who would like to go on a trip?
No. So the last 10 years that I've been doing this, I bring strangers together,
okay.
and I actually screen the people that attend my trips. Yes.
Screen them for what?
To make sure they're the right fit for my group.
Okay.
I screen them because there have been people who have called me regarding my trip, and just based on our conversation, if they're overly anxious, a bit negative from the get-go, I'll direct them elsewhere.
Right, in other words, you don't want jerks on your trip. Hey, if you're going to be spending a week, or tell me the normal length of a trip.
8 to 9 days.
Okay, so if you're going to be spending 8 to 9 days, I don't blame you for doing that, because of the fact that not only do you not want to spend 8 to 9 days with people who are jerks, but you don't want that to impact the group.
No, I think it's really important that when I bring strangers together, that I think they could potentially all get along together.
Right, of course.
And some people will say, hey, I'm going to bring my friend, and my friend's going to bring 2 other people. That's awesome. But I've never had anyone, well, actually that's not true. But yes, people can say, I have my group of 12, where can we go? And I can do that as well.
And do you usually go with them? Or do you say, hey, I'm going to set you up for a trip?
Both. So I can be a travel agent and put people in their own groups, or they can go privately without a group to any destination they want. But then if they want to do one of my hosted trips, I have a number, which is 12.
Okay,
that I
that's
take.
your number.
That's my
number. So how
number.
many trips a year do you do?
Leading up to the pandemic, I hosted 4 trips per year. And then everything else was just behind the scenes.
Going on your own, or helping other people do their things?
Helping other people do their things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So how do you get your clients?
So, through, leading up to this year has been all word of mouth.
Right.
I'm a massage therapist, a yoga teacher, and from the audiences that the people I work with, become my clients as well for traveling.
And friends, too. I
And
mean,
friends,
I know
and friends, absolutely. Well, they become friends too. And so yes, just through networking, it's always been that way, but we've taken it to another level. So, but yes, that's how I find my clientele.
So the people, and you live in the outskirts of, you're at the Conchi, King of Prussia area. Do most of the people that book through you, are they in the Philadelphia region? Or do you get calls from all over the world?
Typically from our region, but last summer I had 3 people from Chicago join me and 1 person from Delaware. So like
Because they were friends of...
friends of friends,
Okay.
and they've heard of me and they wanted to join. So some people just wait until I put a trip out, and you know, I have someone that just reached out from Kentucky. I mean, it just blows me away. But it's all through my connections and our camaraderie, right? That's really important, because when I host trips, it's really important that when people meet me, they feel comfortable to want me to be on their trip, you know? So
Yeah, of course.
So our personalities are really important, you know?
Of course.
And I think from being in the service industry for so many years, I love connecting with people, and then they feel they can travel with me when I have a trip.
Give me an idea of an example trip. I heard you were talking earlier, was it Tuscany?
Tuscany. So the concierge portion of my company is when I'm not attending a trip, I can put your trip together. But if you want it to another level, which is the concierge service of it all, I am with you as you're on your trip, right?
But
so
not actually with them?
But
You're
not
just-
with them.
Right, so you're here in the States.
I'm here in the
and
States.
they're out, okay, that's
They're
the
out there.
concierge,
That's the
okay.
concierge service, and they have an app, and everything's downloaded on their app, their whole entire itinerary. But in the meantime, they're like, oh my God, I'd like to go to this restaurant, or can you find me this restaurant? So they don't have to sit there and work on their vacation to enjoy their vacation. I'm doing everything behind the scenes to make sure
Right.
that they have reservations at the top restaurant in Florence, you know, or in Rome or wherever else. Or as an example, my one client that was in Tuscany, she was like, oh my gosh, the driver was so kind, he brought us ice. And I was like, no, Giovanni didn't bring ice because he thought it would be nice of him to do so. He brought you ice because I told him to get you ice. And she's like, she had no idea, but I knew her and her mom, and over the last 20 some years, I know how much they love ice. They were in Tuscany, it was 105 degrees, and they don't use ice there.
Where's
right?
Tuscany?
It's in northern Italy.
Okay. 100 degrees in northern Italy?
Yeah, it was, last year was exceptionally hot. It
Okay.
was really hot.
Wow.
So I made sure he went to the store and bought them a bag of ice, because ice is uncommon still,
Really?
yes.
Interesting.
But those are the small details that my concierge service offers. Or even when I'm hosting a trip, when I hosted a trip last summer, a couple that went with me, they fell in love again, right? Because we were on the Amalfi Coast. It's romantic, it's beautiful, everything is incredible. It just heightens the senses. And they've been calling themselves for the last 15 years husband and wife, but never really tied the knot. So they were like, could you marry us here?
Really? That was cool.
And I was like, no. I was like, no, I don't even know where to begin. It's last minute, right? And then I thought about it, and I was like, I didn't tell them, but I was thinking about it. I never want to turn away a request. And I was like, well, if they've been pretending that they're married, why can't we do a pretend wedding? So it just so happened, we chartered a private boat that day, and we went to Capri, and it was already set up for them. I wrote their vows. I was up till 2 in the morning, lengthy vows, and I ordered a cake, I ordered flowers, and we mocked a wedding in front of the most romantic spot on the Amalfi Coast, in front of these rocks.
And you were with them?
And I was with them. And Angela, my captain of the boat we always use out there, we were fighting who was going to officiate the wedding. She's like, I think I should do it because I'm Italian. I'm like, but they asked me, you know, so Angela won. So
Well,
Angela...
Was it a legal marriage then?
No, it was pretend. But it
Okay.
felt real. Ryan cried. He called his mom. We got married. It was beautiful. And then post-trip, right, I stopped by Ryan and Renee's house afterwards because they live near me, and I brought gifts. And when I was there, they're like, I went into the kitchen, they're like, check this out. And they were showing me papers on the table. They actually went and applied for their marriage license.
Good.
And they're not redoing the wedding. The family asked if they would, and they said no. They already did it on the Amalfi Coast. So,
Wow, okay.
So
So they considered that the wedding, even though it wasn't sort of legal, they got the license
Yeah.
and then made it official.
I made it official.
Good. Good
But
for
that's
them.
my job. My job is to, like, while you're there, to feel like you get your needs met, right? You know, so we had 2 birthday celebrations. I made sure family from home called during our singing, you know, happy birthday, you know, we're 6 hours apart, you know, and so I tried, and those are the extra things. Those are the things that I try and go over and beyond in order to make people's vacations feel dreamlike, you know.
Give me an example of a trip. Kind of like maybe called the itinerary of a trip. You have and where are most of your trips?
We've been throughout Europe.
Okay.
I've done trips throughout Europe, but my favorite is the Amalfi Coast, and I will
What's the
always.
Amalfi Coast?
The Amalfi Coast is probably one of the top 10 destinations in the world. It
Is that Italy? Like
and
Western
that is
Italy?
that is actually Western Italy. It's
Right.
an hour south of Naples,
Okay.
and it's where the mountains meet the sea.
Right, okay. Okay, I think I recall that. I'm just not that familiar with the geography on
Yeah,
the other side
and
of the pond.
it's just breathtaking, and it's a place where I think there's a nice balance for people who are, let's say if they've never been to Italy, I think it's a great introduction because you have a nice balance of relaxation, coastal beauty, of course, good food, culture, but history. There's a lot of history on the Amalfi Coast, so I think it's yes.
What's the history there?
Oh my gosh, I mean, it's been a resort for thousands of years,
Really?
right? But this is where, like, you know, the island of Capri, which to me is like an open air King of Prussia mall. It's beautiful, but I don't need to see all those stores. But if you hike to the very top of the mountain, this is where Tiberius ruled for 10 years. And from that mountain view, he could see the coastline from Naples down, so he can see anyone that's invading, right? So they're just ruins, but it comes to life, you know? And we've heard of Caligula, right? Well, he raised Caligula. And Caligula wasn't his son, and I don't think Caligula was born crazy. But Tiberius killed his father and mother in front of him, and then decided he had no heirs, so he decided to raise Caligula as his successor. And
After he let him made him watch him kill his parents?
pretty much.
That
You know,
seems a little
so
counterintuitive there.
but it's just like it's just cool. It just puts it all together. Like it makes. I think when I first studied in Rome, I went to art school and I was reading history and looking at photographs of famous paintings and so forth. But when I went over to Europe and I was like, especially in Rome, I was like, oh my God. I understand now why it's so golden in all those paintings. There's a golden light to Rome. And then when I went to Spain and I saw the silver lighting and I was like it just, for me, it just made everything from the past become my present. You know, like if I'm walking the streets in Rome, I feel like I'm walking over top of Michelangelo's footsteps. I mean,
Really?
it's pretty cool.
I'll tell you what,
You know?
you're getting me really anxious about, because I've always wanted to go. In fact, I got screwed out of going to Italy and Monaco because of COVID. But we're up against break ready. I will be back and to pick up where we're going with this in just a few moments. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Do you keep up regularly with your investments? Where exactly are your hard-earned dollars going? Are you financially prepared for an emergency?
I'm Mike Menninger, founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. We believe that education and knowledge are powerful, and we want our clients to understand why we are making the recommendations that we make. It's your money, and you deserve to know where it's going, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So call us today to discuss. Welcome back to Financial Planning Explained, and I'm here with Anca Trofin, and we are having, I mean, you get me all kinds of excited because I've always wanted to go to Europe, and where we left off on the break is I had kind of a dream trip. I was supposed to be spending 4 days in Rome and 3 days in Monaco, or something, 5 and 4 or something like that, in April of 2020. For anybody who knows, April of 2020, it got canceled in March because of COVID, and it was extraordinarily disappointing. And all that you were talking about with Italy, I want to go back again. But you know, let's get the 800-pound gorilla out of the room. How do you, if I wanted to book a trip or whatever the case may be, how does it work how do you get paid?
Depending on what type of trip you choose, right? So there are, I charge a small service fee.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of research for our clientele, and that research can go unpaid if, all that time doing research could go unpaid if they just, one, ghost you, two, decide differently, or not at all with you. So I do that, but then typically a travel agent makes commission. Makes commission from hotels, from tour operators, wholesalers, and so forth.
So in other words, if I were to go, hypothetically, just pick a number, $100 a month would not be nice. $100 a night, just picking a number. It's probably higher than that. But if I was $100 a night at a hotel, if I could book it for $100 a night, but I go through you, is it 100 plus your fee, or does a hotel compensate you?
The hotel compensates me, so it's the same price. So if you wanted to say, if you're like, hey, I want to do a Virgin Voyage cruise, I don't know, anywhere you want to go, just a cruise ship, any cruise ship, right? The price is the same whether you book through me or you book through them, right? And it just means whoever you make that phone call to, that commission gets designated to whoever takes that call, right? So if I successfully book it, you're not getting a better deal with me. You're getting the same deal if you were to have gone somewhere else.
Or booked it myself.
Or booked it even yourself,
so,
right?
So why, I mean, and this is like, why wouldn't I use a travel agent? Because the way I see it is, it's one thing to not know what you don't know. I don't know squat.
But it's a matter of time, right? Like, where do you want to prioritize your time, right? I mean, if you're too busy working, or you're busy working, I should say, do you really have the time to do the research to put together a whole entire itinerary on your own? That takes hours upon
I wouldn't even know.
Hours.
I wouldn't even know where to start. And to be honest with you, I would find myself just parking myself on some beach, which I really enjoy.
Right.
Mind you, I'll do the islands, but, and have the fun. We just did Cancun. That was pretty cool. But I have traveled so little during my lifetime that I'm getting to a point in my age where I want to do it now. And I love the idea of your 8 or 9 day trips where you're hosting, because it gives the ability to interact with other folks, to meet other folks. 8 or 9 days, I would know where to go, what to do, and it gives me the ability to just kind of relax and be guided.
Yes, and that's the whole point of having a vacation, right? You want to turn your brain off, and it's my job, so I'm on. I mean, everyone, like with my hosted trips, Everyone gets the schedule, right? Same thing happens every day. What time are we supposed to wake up tomorrow? Even though it's written on the paper, they still like to hear it from
Right.
me, and it makes them feel
Does
cared
somebody
for.
have when you do these trips, let's say, and I don't mean to interrupt, but let's say it's a 9-day trip. Sometimes I don't want to be going somewhere new every day. In other words, do you, on these trips, tend to stay in one place or 2 or 3 places, or you're at 9 places in 9 days?
No, I mean, to the last portion of your question, my own personal trips, I like staying put in one place.
Okay.
So my typical trips, I get a villa to house us, and that's home. That's home base. So we just do daily excursions leaving the villa, and then we return.
And if we choose to say, hey, you know what, we just want to chill and hang and something like that, we can do that.
Absolutely. There's no pressure to have to be with us. There are plenty of people over the course of years that some people just need a personal day.
Yeah.
They just
Or
want
I'm
to
not
breathe
interested
it
in
in
that
and
trip.
take it all in and just be at the villa. The villa itself is beautiful. We have a swimming pool if it's summertime, and the grounds are gorgeous and the place is, sometimes just being there is enough, and you don't have to go on an excursion if you don't want to.
So most of your trips are to Europe, you said, but I think we're talking about you really like. I throw this one back out at you because we talked about this briefly before. Is I would like to be able to travel, take a week or 2, even potentially 3, and just go somewhere and still be able to work.
Yeah.
Okay, because God knows I can't stop working, but it gives me the ability to be away. I can work remote.
Yes.
And go away for a couple weeks and just travel abroad. Are those things that you can help set up?
Yes, absolutely. I can help you locate an apartment or a villa, whatever you want, or set you up in hotels. I can offer you choice excursions you can choose from. Absolutely. I'm there to make it easy for you.
All right, you're getting me excited.
Yeah. So it's time to travel. I think COVID has. Look, I'm booking people's trips for the summer to Italy. There's nothing left. Everyone's going. Even though flights are super expensive, it's not stopping people from wanting to go. I think people they've been cooped up for too long and they're just ready to go,
Well, okay, so now you got the psychological component of COVID. A lot of people lost their lives, and it put things into perspective. Hey, you know what? It could have been me.
Yeah.
Okay, and if it was, I lost the opportunity to do things. The other thing that COVID did, to your point, and I'm looking at it now a little bit more from the financial planning. Okay, we see it all the time. What happened for about a year and a half, is people were getting all this extra money from the government. Okay, then they were, even if they weren't, and they were still working, they were working and just couldn't spend the money. You can't fly anywhere, you can't go anywhere, all the restaurants are closed. And if you really take a look at, from again, the economic perspective, the amount of money that was sitting on the sidelines and going, savings went up.
Yeah.
And now people are burning through it because of the fact that they missed out on all of those things. So I could certainly see that. However, flight costs going up are going to create, I heard this phrase, it sounds really stupid, but it's so true. You know what the cure to inflation is?
No.
Inflation.
Inflation.
Because once things get too expensive, people stop doing it, the prices come down.
The prices come down.
But
it seems like with travel, that's not what's happening. They're just still going despite the costs.
The other question I have is, when I went to Cancun, the struggle that I had was language barrier. Even though there was a language barrier, let's just put it that way, okay, very difficult. I would I'll go to England because they speak English. Is there much of a language barrier when traveling to Europe? Do they expect me to speak Italian if I'm going to Italy? Do they expect me to speak Portuguese or Spanish?
No. If you go to the major tourist areas, you're more than likely going to come across English quite easily.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's in the smaller towns that you'll find less or more of a language barrier, but you know what? Kindness goes a long way, and hands go a long way when you talk and you explain. And one thing I found throughout my travels in Europe, they're patient. You know, like when you're trying to make an effort and you don't come off entitled and expect them to know what you want to say, they reciprocate. You know, they want to help you. So you know, in fact, one of our trips to Croatia, my first trip to Croatia, we were in this town called Split, and everyone spoke English, and I mean everyone. And so I asked a saleswoman at a store, like, why do people speak English so well here? It's uncanny. And she said that they all learn English from the time they go to elementary school.
Everybody learns English as a second language.
Because especially since the war in Yugoslavia, when they divided, they've lost all of their other industries except for tourism. English is very important.
Yeah.
You know, because Americans and British and Australians, we all go over there, you know, and spend money and enjoy their country. They need to speak English.
Do other countries like or dislike Americans? Oh, that's a challenging question. You're allowed to say it on film.
It's not so much that. You know what? On my own personal level of experience, I've never had an issue. I've been to many countries, and I hear how certain countries don't like other people from other countries. You know, like you hear about like, the British are so cold, or the Germans are just so harsh. But when I was living in Italy, on the Amalfi Coast when I was really young, I was massaging people. I'm a massage therapist, and I was working at a 5-star luxury hotel, and I was working on British people. And I've always heard from the local Italians, oh my God, they're just so cold. They're not cold.
Not when you're massaging.
Not when you're massaging, but I found that like some cultures, they just need a little warming up. Right. You know, like sometimes they come off cold, but if you give them a chance, they actually.
Well, and that's people. And by the way, you know what? It all comes down to people are going to treat you in the same level that you treat them.
Yes.
If I am acting very arrogant, then you're going to be turned off.
Absolutely.
If I'm acting very kind and gracious, you're going to be the same way.
You know what? When I go to a new country, I speak Italian, but if I go to Spain or France, I want to make sure I know how to say good morning.
Right.
Hello, goodbye, thank you.
Right, absolutely.
You know, I think that those few words are yes, they open doors.
Sorry,
you know,
I think
because
thank you is the two most important words in the English language. With that, Anca, believe it or not, we're done. All right. What I'd like to do, and you can't tell everybody what you do because then I won't have time.
Yeah, right.
Myself, I'm only joking. Take a minute, look in the camera right over there, and just tell people how they can get a hold of you, and we'll put up your contact information on the screen.
Okay. Well, my company is called Allura Escapes. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and my phone number is 215-715-3950. You can also find me at alluraescapes.com.
Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate that greatly. This was more of leisure, but guess what? You know, we work too much. I know I'm certainly guilty of that. And, you know, it's part of financial planning, retirement planning. Hey, enjoyment planning is also an important part of the overall thing. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Anca. That was terrific. Thank you, and have a great day, and forward to seeing you in my next episode of Financial Planning. I'm Mike Menninger, Certified Financial Planner. Have a great day.